think the most current picture of faculty salaries can be gleaned from University of Texas. The dean of University of Texas was recently fired, essentially out of a faculty revolt over salaries and monetary awards that professors were getting. And I guess some in the faculty thought it was unfair, so they filed a public information request. So the faculty salaries for Texas were posted online, and the numbers are shocking. 19 professors at Texas earn over $300,000. Another 35 professors earn between $200,000 and $300,000. In addition to that, I believe it was 20 professors received one-time grants in the form of forgivable loans, ranging from $75,000 to over $300,000. In addition, the dean himself got a one-time grant of $500,000. Now, these grants came from the Texas Law Foundation, which is a very wealthy foundation. But nonetheless, these are forms of compensation. So we're talking real money here. This is Texas. I assume that the elite law schools, top 5 law schools, are the same kind of monies in play.
Yeah.
There are two different sides to this. One is the low-end salaries at most law schools, and then one are the salaries at the high-end law schools. At the low-end law schools, the impact of the ABA is most direct, because the ABA provisions essentially said that, and again, these are more the interpretations rather than the standards, but they're also official interpretations.
Right.
They were written into the body of rules. Suggested two things. One is that any school below a comparable median, and by that they would compare to other like-situated schools, any school at which the salaries were below comparable median raised questions about the sufficiency of the compensation. And then there was another provision that said any school at the bottom is presumptively in non-compliance. So the operation of these two provisions was essentially to ratchet up salaries on the bottom, because there's always some law school at the bottom. So the argument is we're at the bottom or near the bottom, we're not in compliance. And there are always half of the law schools at any given time below the comparable median. So through these provisions, after doing accreditation inspections, reports could be written to say that the faculty's not being appropriately compensated. And in fact, this was open knowledge at the time. I quote Dean Cass of BU saying, it looks like these accreditation visits are really about trying to pry more money out of the dean, the law school dean for the faculty, and then trying to pry more money out of the university relative to the faculty. Now all of those provisions have been taken out, but nonetheless it had a ratcheting up effect, and that effect continues today, because the new levels of salary, subsequent raises are often based on percentage of existing salary, for example, and new hires come in and are pegged on existing salary. So that lifted up collectively the bottom half, the lower salaries at the lower range law schools. That doesn't explain the extraordinary salaries that are now being obtained at the top law schools. What explains that, and now I'm talking about Harvard, Yale, Michigan, essentially is competition for star professors. Law schools have really now engaged in recruiting wars for more than 10 years, about 15 years, even longer actually. And this relates to our extraordinary chase for prestige. Law schools are now competing, and we often say this is about U.S. news, and indeed it is, but it's also about the fact, as I mentioned earlier, that legal academia, the legal profession in general, but I want to emphasize legal academia in particular, is very elite-oriented, very prestige-oriented, and we sort of had this frenzy about recruiting professors. And the common ways to recruit professors are to offer higher pay and to offer lower teaching loads.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and the leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.